Hey everyone, welcome to Mighty Forces. I'm your host, Amanda Hirsch. If you're someone who gives a damn about other people, about the state of the world, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Take a load off, let your hair down, and get ready to go deep. And to get stupid. Because in my experience, the best conversations with the best people share both of these characteristics. Let's start the show. Hey everyone, it's Amanda. I got the loveliest message today from someone who was listening to the show on a road trip with her family and said that they were listening to it and enjoying it, that it was lovely. And it just meant so much to me. That made my heart very happy. I feel like, what I'm trying to do with this podcast is a little bit different because it's not just topic-based, right? This isn't the podcast about peanut butter or the podcast about suntan lotion. It's a podcast that's more of a vibe, I guess. And it's more about just pulling together really beautiful people to have real conversations. And truly, they say to write the book that you want to read. And I'm creating the podcast I want to listen to. I want to tune in and just hear a very real conversation. People who aren't reaching for their talking points or pretending to be personable, but really they've got their professional armor on. I just want all the bullshit stripped away, people being real and connecting and talking about stuff that matters. I'm one of those allergic to small talk people. My friends and I, we get into it. And my clients and I, we get into it. I like people who want to get into it. But I also, as you may have noticed, if this isn't your first time around these parts, I like to laugh. And the best conversations I have in my workday, in my life, day to day, are with people who just care about really substantive things and think about substantive things, whether they have to do with social justice or spirituality. And they're just, one heartbeat away from a belly laugh. And the intermingling of that, of exploring stuff that really matters and just enjoying each other and playing, to me, that's just the most beautiful stuff. And I don't know, maybe in this moment when things feel so polarized and feels so much like neighbor pitted against neighbor, and I don't mean to amplify that story. I know it's not a universal truth, but it can feel that way, that just, I hope that there's some medicine in hearing people connect and be together. And so today, let me cue up today's episode. I talked to two women I adore. They are Suzanne Ehlers, who is a longtime client of mine, and someone who every time I see her name on my calendar, my heart lights up, and Johanna. And fun fact, until this episode, I didn't know how to pronounce Johanna's name. I don't know if you can relate, but she's someone I've known for such a long time. And by the way, someone who, like Suzanne, when I see her name on my calendar, my heart lights up. And I mean that. But I've never been in a situation where I had to pronounce her name. I never had to say her name out loud. And I come into today's episode, right before I hit record, I was thinking her name was Joanna. And then I found out it was Johanna. Then I realized I don't know how to say her last name. We've known each other for a decade. Many deep conversations about very deep things, and I didn't know how to pronounce her name. So I just think that's sort of interesting as a musing on human connection, that you could have like a real soul-searching series of conversations with someone and then realize you don't know how to pronounce their name. This is a conversation with two people who had only met the day prior to this conversation. So I don't know if you've noticed, but, episode 1 was two BFFs since college, so decades of deep, deep friendship between them. Episode 2 was two women who I have been dying to introduce to each other, but who had never spoken before we hit record. Couple different models you'll hear throughout the season. I'm having fun with the matchmaking aspect of the show. Who do I want to have in conversation with whom? And so Suzanne and Johanna are two people who I intuitively sensed would just really enjoy knowing each other. I guess to use the word vibe again, their vibes remind me of each other. There's a wisdom to each of them, and like a confidence of intellect paired with just such heart and love for other people. And so they actually ended up chatting by phone for the first time the day before I recorded our conversation. And by the time they showed up for our recording session, it was like they were old pals. They hit it off immediately, as I sensed they would, she said smugly. And turns out they live just on opposite sides of Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C. They've probably passed each other before walking their dogs. So I don't know, another little reflection on what it means to be connected. You can know someone and not know how to pronounce their name. You can live across the park from someone that you have so much in common with, and yet you've never met. I find hope in that last piece. Like, who lives on the other side of the park from you, metaphorically, who you haven't met yet, but once you start talking to them one day, you're going to feel so much less alone in this world. I don't know. I think that's beautiful. So enough from me. I am so glad you're here. Thank you. I hope that the following conversation brings you satisfaction, inspiration, feelings of connection, and settle in. Let's do it. Welcome, welcome, welcome to a juicy new episode of Mighty Forces. Suzanne and Johanna, I'm so happy to have you both here today.
I'm thrilled.
Me too. Happy. Yeah.
I was telling them that before I hit record that I feel like in creating this podcast, I've also sort of had like a not so secret second agenda of creating a matchmaking service because I've either had guests on who, like my very first episode, they're best friends from college. And part of what I wanted to celebrate and explore was, how do you do that? How do you stay so connected to someone over so many years across different geographies? But my second episode was two people, it's actually kind of funny, that have so much in common and live in the same city. And yet I had tried to connect them like over a year ago and they had failed at getting together. And so I only realized, like, I hit record and then I was like, wait, did you guys ever actually end up meeting? And they were like, no. And so then the joke was like, well, that is actually why I created the podcast. It's an elaborate ruse to bring the two of you together. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm really glad you're both here. And I just on a vibe level felt like, no, you guys have similar energy, I think.
Mm-hmm. You know that we talked yesterday. I mean, sort of in anticipation of this episode, Johanna and I, it didn't take that long. I was actually surprised that we settled on this like little 30-minute window and we were talking by phone. I was in my car on my commute home. You were walking your dog, I think. And we were like within minutes, it's true that we did sort of make a riff off of our names, Johanna Banana and Suzanne Banana, and like what that might have been in elementary school for both of us. But like we live across the park from each other and we're both dog moms. And like it was like wildfire. Like we were talking like old friends. Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, I love that.
It was amazing. So mission accomplished, Amanda.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll cut the episode there then,
Yeah.
because we've done what we set out to do.
Check.
But both of you are people that I feel like the first time I met you, Suzanne, it was trying to persuade you to hire me. So maybe we didn't just gab away into the night. Well, actually, you guys have that in common. I didn't realize it. So what I was going to say, except that, so when Johanna and I first met, I was interviewing for a job. She was working at the Atlantic, and
Okay.
I was interviewing for a job. I'd been working on my own for years, but I thought, oh, maybe I'll go in-house. I should have, steady paycheck. And so I applied for this job, but I guess I was really bad at pretending I wanted the job, because the next thing I know, we're like bearing our souls to each other and we're talking about what do we really want out of life. What do you
It
remember
was the
about that?
best interview because it was so real, and that was not the job you wanted.
Yeah. No, it was not.
It was not the job I wanted for you either.
Yeah, pretty quickly, right? And that's one of your gifts. I mean, I think you really see people. I think you both do. And Suzanne, when you and I first met, a friend, I guess a mutual friend, had recommended me as someone who maybe could help you with telling your story as you navigated a career transition. So I guess we didn't like maybe let it all hang out that first time, but both of you are people that I feel like I just, from the word go, could just talk and talk and talk to. And
well,
yeah,
it was interesting. You sort of, it would have been in like the fall of 2018 that we first got connected, because I was looking to transition from my role, but knew it would take some time. So I kind of wanted to launch this new sort of strategy and set of ideas in 2019. And that's what I did. And it worked. And then I had that new job in the first part of 2020. But when we were in 2018, because I was paying for this with my own money, I don't know if you remember this, because it was about a career shift and about my own journey. There was a price that came back, which was like in hindsight, like so absurdly reasonable. But it, I feel
but
like
a lot
women,
of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah. But like female professionals, perhaps like almost allergic to making this investment in themselves. And so we didn't know each other that well, but you showed for me like such compassion and kind of like strategic boundary setting. You're like, listen, I know this number, what you had some sticker shock, and I know my offering is really worth it. And I know you can afford this investment in yourself. And I really look forward to working with you. And I was like, okay, done. Like, let me Venmo you tomorrow. Like that's like, we weren't like fast friends per se, but we went right into a space of like trust and
being real.
Yeah, being real. It was, I have a good memory of that. And we've worked together ever since.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
So cool.
And Johanna, I bet you're maybe filtering some of that through. You've just completed, is it your second year running your own?
Almost. Yeah.
Almost 2 years.
My second year.
Yeah.
Of consulting. And it's such a wild ride. I think that the thing I love about it is that I can own my own curiosity. I can take whatever path I find is going to give me energy, and I can try some that don't give me energy and I won't pursue it. And I love that. But there is just that grind, as you talked about, going in-house, right? Of finding your next client. My husband is a personal chef. So we both have solopreneurships, and we're on the healthcare exchange. That is no joke in terms of expense and uncertainty. So, it comes with a lot of stressors, but if I can keep doing it, as long as I can keep doing it, it is truly so nourishing. That work is so nourishing because you learn what motivates you, right? There's the external forces are fewer. And so then you get to learn yourself so much in that work.
And I love that you use the word curiosity because, I mean, Suzanne, curiosity is one of the kind of core values that you bring to your leadership, right? Like, talk a little bit about why do you think leaders benefit from being curious?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I wrote that. I was like, I took own my curiosity, and this sort of idea too. I think, Johanna, you said like you kind of zero in on what motivates you absent these other external factors. And then I would say that there is a possibility within institutions, and maybe at a certain sort of stage in your career, where you are given the freedom to do more of what motivates you. So I think of the role that I have here at USA for UNHCR. I am really motivated by like external engagement and building new partnerships. And I love running an organization as well. And what really fuels me, though, is, the trip that I'll take to Bangladesh next week with donors who have made like incredible investments in the work there. And so, as the more the career advances, how much are you able to, sort of strike that balance between, frankly, what pays the healthcare exchange and what really fuels your fire, which I feel so grateful for. But owning the curiosity, curiosity is one of my leadership values, as Amanda likes to call it, because I feel like it opens up. I don't know. I'm like, so we had this conversation yesterday, Johanna. Like, we both have such curiosity about people and about how they show up as sort of competent individuals in the world. We had this whole riff on like competence and confidence, and curiosity for me lets me get closer to that story about other people.
I love that. I love that. I'm curious what you said about competence, because I feel like we're almost in an era of reinventing competence, right? Like when I was growing up, no one in the culture, well, that I was exposed to in my suburban upbringings, was, calling out capitalism left and right now. But like now we're alive at a time where people, and then we lived through girl boss, right? And like hustle culture. And now I feel like culturally we're living through the like backlash of like, no, like stop, like maybe hustle less and like take a nap and take care of yourself and recognize that who you are is not just someone who needs to be productive to prove and earn money to prove their worth, And so just thinking, what does it mean to be competent as a leader or as a person, contributing to the world and yet taking care of yourself and detaching a bit from that hamster wheel that I think, we were all sort of pushed towards when we were beginning our careers. I'm curious if that sparks anything for either of you.
I mean, I don't know, Johanna, if you want to go first, we had some fun little we had fun storytelling about it because we used, I think, relatively like daily examples. I was riffing off of competence because Sean Penn is on a recent episode of The Interview with the New York Times. And my favorite clip from the whole interview is where he talks about how much incompetence like drives his inner volcano to explode. And so I came home and I told my daughter that, and she was like, I know, but she was the other side of the coin. She was like, it's not that you get frustrated so much with incompetence, although you do, but you love competence. Like we're at a restaurant and the waitress or the server comes over and like really helps you feel at home and like knows the menu and kind of owns the experience. That person will walk away and my daughter will look at me and be like, you love her because she is so competent. And I'm like, you're right. Like I really celebrate. Or we had the example yesterday, we were talking about like facilitating a panel and how like it is an art and a science to facilitate a conversation well. And when you have that, either as a panelist or as an audience member, girl, you sit back in your seat because you are being led by somebody who is competent about, driving a conversation and an exchange and sort of ideas. And so I just sort of like love competence when it shows up. And Johanna, I think you were talking about how much that feeds and informs someone's confidence, either in the workplace or in a personal setting. So that was where, I don't know, that's kind of where it hit me.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think that in order to become competent at something, you have to have the space to succeed and fail and learn what works and what doesn't. And, I'm able to do that in my solopreneurship. And Suzanne, you're able to do that as the CEO of your organization, right? Is that you have the space, you're given the space, whether it's from yourself or from others, that you're allowed to see what works and what doesn't, and what's the best way for you to move forward in a practice. And that space to find competence really does fuel confidence. And we were talking a little bit about workplaces yesterday and just constrictive workplaces, the workplaces that not only is the goal, and sometimes the goal is obfuscated. I mean, you don't always know the goals. You don't always know where your organization wants to go. I mean, that's the first problem. But then even if you do know the goal, that someone is telling you exactly how to get there, that takes away a sense of ownership and responsibility, which is what, when you think about what competence is, it's ownership. It's knowing exactly who you are in this task or in this expectation. And it not only breeds your own confidence, but it breeds confidence in those around you. When I'm at an event and there's an amazing facilitator, I can receive. I can sit and receive. I'm not thinking about what they should be doing or what, like there is a reception in me. And that just feels good. It feels really good. And it feels amazing to watch someone else step into their competence. So, yeah.
Yeah. In the organization, it was interesting. I was thinking about how, this excellence in our lane, right, is what we want, and how we also want though people to care about the whole. And in order to do that, though, back to this, you have to give people ownership. And I was with my executive coach yesterday, and she said something to me, which I think I like, although it's always good to reflect on feedback. She's like, listen, you're a pretty hands-off leader in the sense that, I mean, and I mean, my God, heart in, but hands out, kind of like a good board. So like, I'm all heart with this place. I do like a weekly email to my team. I walk the floor when I'm here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Who's around? How have you been? What's in the kitchen today? But like hands out in the sense that I have an approach to that, but what's your approach to that? Like, I'm just so not tied to how someone does something. So long as the end result and what you take across the finish line, you own and you have accountability for. So like AI, I'm fine if AI helps you draft sort of 90% of your email text that you're sending thousands of to on our sort of donor list, so long as the ultimate product is your responsibility. And that you have, like I'm just sort of trying to sort of play a little bit with how that sense of ownership and sort of responsibility and accountability is evolving in the workplace too, and how to reward that. Anyways, just sort of maybe more of an AI technology frame, which I'm not sure I can go much deeper on, but sort of a piece of the workplace that I'm considering a lot these days.
Well, and to me, you're mothers, I'm a mother. I can't help but immediately go to how do we raise people who are ready to take ownership? And it's, of course, not just up to parents, but how do we educate them? And I recorded an episode last week with a woman who co-founded the fairly radical school that my daughter is enrolled in. It's a Democratic school. And I won't spend too much time, but just to read you guys in on it, it's literally the adults and the kids run the school together. There are no formal classes. The whole idea is to follow what interests the kids. So yes, it's radical. I name it. It's radical. And I believe in it because what it's teaching my daughter is how to be self-aware and self-advocate while existing in community. So, in that environment, she can say, well, I think it's dumb that we allow blah, 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 and she can bring that to the school and she can say, I think we should stop allowing, squirrels to run around the school. Obviously, that's not a real example, but, no more squirrels in the lawn outside of school. And the rest of the community can either say, yeah, we agree. Why are all those squirrels here? Get rid of the squirrels. Or they can say, we love the squirrels. How dare you? And then my daughter has to figure out what to do next, right? Like, do I continue to push? Do I find a new way to deliver my message? Do I listen to them and go, gosh, now that I think about it, I kind of love the squirrels too. I hadn't thought about it that way. And to me, but also she has to confront her own boredom. If she gets bored, like, I remember I had an improv coach say to me once, if you're bored, it's your own fault, which is like maybe not how I would phrase it, but
only boring people get bored is what I've heard.
Yeah. But the idea of like, okay, so you're bored. What are you going to do about it? And so the fact that you're not spoon feeding things to kids, but they have to go, I notice that I am bored. I'm going to go for a walk around the grounds, or I notice that I'm interested in how the Wi-Fi works. I don't know how Wi-Fi works. I want to know how Wi-Fi works. How am I going to marshal some of the resources of this school to figure that out? So to me, I lied. I can't talk briefly about this topic. I'm so passionate about it. But I will pull myself in and say, so to me, and I could go on. And there are downsides to the model too. I mean, there's no question, because what's perfect, right? But I believe that I'm preparing my daughter to show up the way that you guys have just described, to be able to be and the getting along in the organization too, which is the getting along in community, right? So not just to own like, I'm interested in this and I'm going to do that, or the way I choose to do this project is X, but also in a context of there are also other people here. So I think, I wonder how you guys think about that as parents, and sort of just beyond the workplace. How do we get more people to be people who know how to and are comfortable and confident, to use your word, Johanna, taking ownership?
I was thinking about, so my husband is amazing at this because he won't step in. I mean, he's so good at and in some ways, I always say, I mean, he's not a lazy man, but like, it's great to have a lazy parent because the kids have to figure it out.
Yeah.
But recently, Elliot, my son, who's 15 now, maybe it was a year ago or so, he was making pasta. My husband is a chef. Elliot is a discerning eater. And they decided many years ago, he was probably 10, that if John is making dinner and Elliot doesn't want to eat it, he has to cook his own food. So John taught him how to cook his own food, and he makes his own food for dinner. So he was making pasta. It was very uncharacteristic of John, but John grabbed the pasta and drained it for him. And then Elliot went to go do something else, and he did something else before Elliot could do it. And Elliot looked at me and said, "I'm obsolete." And I was like, whoa. And it's so true. How do we parent when we get ourselves involved? Again, it goes back to a space question. Giving people space to figure out what works for them, what doesn't work for them, how to do something well or not well, or getting feedback, all those things are so important. So from a parenting standpoint, I do think, what I say is you're a member of this ecosystem.
I like that word.
And every member in an ecosystem is really, really important. And how do you want to show up in that ecosystem? My expectation is that you respect others in the ecosystem. So you take care of your own stuff, but you also, if you notice that, I mean, sometimes I'm really busy, sometimes dad is really busy. So how do you help, fill a vacuum if that's what's needed? And I mean, I struggle with this myself. I make him breakfast every morning because then we get to play Yahtzee. If his breakfast is waiting for him, I can play 2 games of Yahtzee with Elliot before he goes to school. So I'm totally enabling him in some ways. But I do think that no one wants to feel obsolete. And to do that, sometimes we feel like we're giving someone a gift when we do something for them. And I think that is the biggest mistake, and that is in the workplace, and it's at home as well, because everyone should have the opportunity to make their own mistakes and figure things out for themselves.
Yeah. I love that. And you also touched on, and then Suzanne, I want to go to you on this theme, but you just mentioned something too that to me is one of the push-pulls of motherhood, which is that sometimes I want to make you a bowl of oatmeal. That's a way I
what about my role?
Right. But it's part of how I feel I feel so much love for you, and it actually sure, there are days where I'm you could make, right. There are days where you could make your own dinner and that would be just fine. That would not tug my heartstrings at all. Please do. Yeah. But there are times where babying you actually kind of is meaneful to me.
Totally.
And then that's an edge in parenting, because you have to sometimes be you gotta just pull back a little bit. And all you want to do is be let me make it so nice for you, baby. It's hard. But yeah, Suzanne, what do you think about what Johanna said, and just riffing on this idea of ownership and how we get young people to the point where they even know how to do that?
I keep thinking about putting the draft out there. And maybe it was sort of inspired by the story about your daughter, Amanda, or in the workplace. But I always am just get it start it. Like put something out there, like this idea about the squirrels, like put it on paper, have some ownership about it. Like the draft is going to change dramatically before it's finished, but like it's okay to put something out there because for me, it's the biggest act of courage in a process. And it's also, quite frankly, the most pivotal sort of moment because a process can't start until it starts. And it starts with a draft. And maybe that's a document, maybe that's like a whiteboard, sort of mock up. I don't know. But I just kept thinking about like, just try, right? Like just give it a shot, and then you're not obsolete, right? Because it all like has started from this sort of original kernel that you helped. And so it's not that you don't have pride of ownership. Of course you do, but you sort of put that draft out there almost just to get the sort of juices flowing. So that feels like something that I like has been like advice that I've given to so many young professionals is like, just get the draft out there. And then also, I'm not sure this is a workplace example, but I feel like there's, sort of similar to thinking about Elliot and your husband in the kitchen around cooking. I always think about like budgets and that that's why it's like so pedestrian. And I feel like we don't sort of teach either young people or young women in particular to like really be in at the budget level and to kind of know where the numbers go and to figure out Excel spreadsheets. And I mean this at home as well, like whether it's my younger's green light card or where it's my older sort of what she's going to do with her graduation money. I'm like trying to figure out like, how do you get people to have a stake in the resource question? And I'm not going back and like pushing a big sort of capitalist agenda, but like my organization like survives and thrives on the money that we raise and what we can sort of afford to do and what we can make space for innovating, and all of that costs money. And so that was kind of, those are the two places where I went, was like put a draft out there and like figure out the budget, because then you're like baked in a way that people can't take you out.
Before you say anything, Amanda, I'd love to just the brilliance of the draft. I mean, both of them are so smart and I just love this, but the draft, I've been thinking a lot about. My daughter is an artist, and she, because of the blank page, I mean, she faces the blank page. Amanda, you as a writer face the blank page all the time. And she embraces being a beginner. It's like, it doesn't affect her to be a beginner, because her practice is the blank page. But it goes back to what you're saying about a draft, right? The other thing that you're saying in that, just do a draft. First of all, you're taking up space, right? You're filling a vacuum. That's awesome. But that it's okay to have a draft. Because I think that we live in this culture of perfection.
Yeah.
That we have to have already figured everything out. And a lot of people are scared to be a beginner. They're scared to do a draft because it's not perfect yet. And so what you're saying to all of these young people is many things. But one thing that I think is so special is it's okay to have drafts. It's okay not to be perfect. And that is like profound. I love that so much. It is like on so many levels. It's amazing.
I love it too. And I love it. It kind of goes back to the example you gave, Suzanne, of the person who, like, if they want to use, Chat GPT or whatever to come up with their draft, as long as at the end of the day they're good with it, it's less them owning it is less them saying, oh, I'm 100% sure that this is 100% perfect. That's not what we mean by ownership. Ownership isn't, I'm 100% sure this is 100% perfect and I'm 100% right. It's more about personal integrity, right? It's more about saying, I understand my responsibility in this job, and I've done the best I can to do this task. And as I stand here and in this moment, in this very complicated and stressful world, right? I know I can affirm that I've done the best I can in this moment to write the best email possible. But that is very different than I solemnly swear under oath that this is perfect. It's bulletproof. You can't find a damn thing wrong with it, right? Because in some ways, I don't know, in some ways, everything is a draft, right? I mean, we're just moving the
Wait.
draft forward, right?
Right.
And of course, I have to call in, you've called in the Yahtzee gods, I have to call in the improv gods. But, as you guys may have heard, I'm kind of into improv as a metaphor for life. And that's what you were describing, Suzanne, with the bravery, the courage, the leadership, really, that it shows to put that first draft out there, to be the person in the improv show who walks onto the blank stage in front of an audience, gets a word, just a word, eagle, and makes a choice. You're just like, that eagle won't stop, hogging our bird feeder, and away we go. You didn't write the whole show. You did the first line, right? And so I really like the color that both of your shares have kind of brought to this idea of ownership, of its, I don't know, it's more, it's not about perfectionism.
No.
It's about agency and integrity a little bit. Right.
Well, and that was that other, I mean, I feel like, Johanna, you put even like the sort of maybe using the example of your daughter as an artist, like embracing being a beginner.
Yes.
And I was thinking back to, this is sort of an example, like after college, and I was with a friend who, sort of quite frankly, like always looks good and is really good at everything. And we were going to go rollerblading. And I was like, I've never rollerbladed before, and I mean, I roller skated. I grew up in South Texas. I mean, I know my way around a roller rink, but I had never rollerbladed before. And where the story goes, I don't get a broken arm or anything. It's all fine. But in the moment, she says to me, "You're never embarrassed to say that you don't know how to do something." And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to do it. Like, why would I be embarrassed about that? Like, and that sort of, that exchange has sort of stuck with me, like how much we want to put on this facade. Like, oh yeah, I've done that before. Oh, I've been there before. Like, what about being like wide-eyed and being like, no, I'm 52 and I've never X, Y, or Z. Like, that's okay, especially if you're at sort of a moment of curiosity where you might be able to do X, Y, or Z for the first time.
Well, and that to me comes back to this idea of reconsidering what competence looks like, because, I think there was a time where somebody who was considered competent would not say, I don't know how to do that. Because, it gets all, and we're going to, bring in Brene Brown, right? And just vulnerability and all of that competence doesn't mean you're armored and you're perfect and you can do everything. I mean, it means, to your example of wait staff and whatever, it means kind of showing up at your best, like doing, taking every job that you're given to heart and doing the best you can in that moment at that job, which almost seems like it's about love and respect for other people more than anything else. But it doesn't mean, that to be a competent server, the person doesn't also need to know how to rollerblade or how to run a nonprofit organization, right? It's more human than that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a humane competence. Yeah.
Johanna, I want to ask you, where did boredom hit you? I mean, like, I was sort of thinking about, maybe Amanda, was your question, like, what is it? Like, you said something like only boring people get bored. Like,
someone told me that line.
I know, but riff a little bit more on like boredom. Do you ever experience boredom in your life? And I don't know. I'm just curious. Do you?
I do. And I wish I was better about my phone. I have taken Instagram off my phone and I've taken my Kindle app off my phone. So those are two things that I don't have apps, and I've hidden my internet behind 3 screens. But I definitely rely on my phone when I'm bored. And I would like to just bring more awareness to that. Like, how does that make me feel? It makes me feel really tired. And it's something that I've really just been tuning into. Oh, wow. When I'm staring at my screen, I feel really tired. But when I go out for a walk, I feel pretty energized. But I really love following energy. And so again, like, I think one of the hardest things to do, people are like, oh, you just need self-awareness. Like, what are you feeling? I mean, that is hard.
Yeah, you just need self-awareness.
Right. Just know yourself better. I'm like, my God.
How? But one thing that I can follow and track more easily is energy. And so when something makes me really sleepy, I probably, unless I'm sleeping, I mean, I love sleep and I will take a nap in the afternoon. Like if I have a call in like 30 minutes, I'll just close my eyes for 20 and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's another thing that I do, but I really follow the energy. So, I am not super bored all the time because I like going and walking in Rock Creek Park. I have a yoga studio. I teach yoga. This is something I just started doing this year, and I do a lot of yoga. I go there. I love the community. I love the people, everyone who's there. I love like helping people decorate their houses. I decorate on like Facebook Marketplace. Like I try to find a deal. And so there are like little things that I do in addition to work and hanging out with my family and eating and going to the farmer's market. But so, yes, I definitely have boredom. And when I'm bored, I have to make a choice, and I don't always make the choice that is nourishing to me. But I also believe in that boredom and numbing has a place. Like we can't always be going a million different directions, nor should we, because I think it's really, busyness reduces our ability to feel what we're feeling vis-a-vis the world, right? So like when we're in our communities, right, and we're saying, I don't want squirrels in the schoolyard. Squirrels are terrible in the schoolyard, and people react to that or respond to that in a way, and it makes me feel something. That's feedback. But when we're super busy, when we're doing a million different things, we lose that connection from the world around us and how it's impacting us. And so I do think that there's a time and a place for scrolling. I think there's a time and a place for, binge watching television. Like I just think that like our bodies, I think we have to wake up if we're doing something too much. But I just think that especially right now, it's hard out there. It's like, how do we survive? We survive in the best way that we can. Well, so that was probably a roundabout way. I definitely get bored, and I definitely probably don't always have the best. I'm a boring person because I can get bored, and then I find kind of unhealthy ways sometimes to.
You're definitely not a boring person, so let's just pull that right back.
Yeah.
But Suzanne, what about you? What's your relationship to boredom?
Well, I was thinking when you first said the word, you know how like words just don't come on. Like I don't hear like boredom a lot. So when one of you said it, I was like boredom. Like, and I remember I'm having like a memory of, maybe my elementary or middle school years where we would like live at the neighborhood pool, right? I mean, like no phones. We couldn't I don't even know if we had a VHS machine. We certainly didn't have cable. And my mom, was a stay-at-home mom, didn't work outside the home, as we might say now. And she was like, I am not going to have you come home and complain of boredom. Like, this is like the biggest gift. You are out of school for like almost 3 full months in like a beautiful, safe neighborhood. Like, figure it out. We literally go to the pool when it opened at noon and get home at 6 for dinner. So my relationship to boredom has always been like, I can't be, right? Because I have too much privilege to be bored, right? Like there's always something to do. So that was sort of one reaction to it. And then I was thinking about how like this energy question, though, was a really interesting sort of take on it for me. And I was in therapy for like 6 months with a particular therapist who was really kind of an energy worker. And so earlier we were like kind of laughing like, oh, it's so hard to know yourself. But I also think the listener can like the little steps you can take. So one thing I've done to maybe better understand that like sleepiness boredom equation is to really like tune in to where I feel a certain kind of energy in response to a certain kind of situation. So if my husband and I kind of go back to that same old argument that always comes up between us, where do I feel it? Like, where is the energy in my body when we have that argument? Or if I'm on my dog walk in the morning and like one of my neighbors finally puts out her like fun Halloween display that I like will never do in my own front yard, but I'm so glad she does it. Like, where is the energy that like where's my joy, you know? So I don't know. That's where I went with it, was like this childhood memory of boredom, but then this real like attraction to this idea of like, it's not impossible to figure out what energizes you. You just have to be willing to kind of tune in a little bit and see where it rests in your body when it happens, so that you can try to make that happen more often, maybe, or less often in the case of sort of like a stressed energy, you know, in sort of a marital spat, if you will.
Yeah.
Or just notice it. Because I also think that we go to action so quickly, and, you know, that's the world we live in. And that's just not necessarily how humans have lived most of our existence. It's like you couldn't react quickly to things, right? I mean, we have so many things at our fingertips. Discomfort, that's the thing we're taking away from ourselves. We don't know how to be uncomfortable. And because we can pick up a phone, I mean, we're never lost. We're never uncomfortable. Like, what can we do to get out of discomfort? And I just think it is a practice to be uncomfortable. And boredom can be uncomfortable. And sadness and anger can be uncomfortable. And those are just alert systems to us, and not necessarily something we have to do anything with. I don't know.
I love that. I mean, it's hard because agency is one of my core values, right? I don't know if you guys ever watched Inside the Actors Studio with James Lipton.
Oh God, yes, James Lipton. Is that what's the name?
Yeah. And I used to watch, and he would ask, I guess maybe it's called the Proust questionnaire. I think they do the same questions at the end of Vanity Fair magazine, but he would ask, what is your favorite scent, or what job other than your own would you most like to attempt? What job other than your own would you least like to attempt? And it's interesting because there were two of the questions. One was, what is the quality you admire most in women? And what is the quality you admire most in men? And I mean, I could spend, quite a bit of time unpacking what that's about, right? Why we're going to have different qualities we admire. But I will say that long before I did the work I do, long before I was as aware or informed as a feminist as I am now today, I remember the word that came up for me immediately was the quality I admire most in women is agency. And it was, I always have admired people who don't just complain about a problem or what is somebody's turn of phrase is like study the problem. No, not, who are like, so then what can we do about it? What are we going to do?
Complain to solutions.
Yeah, right. And so I really deeply respect people who do something about it. However, and whether that's an entrepreneur, an artist, a community volunteer, whatever, someone who's like, oh, I hate the way this works in my town. I'm going to do something about it. I don't like the way. But, the dark side of that is a rabid need for control and an inability to sit with discomfort, right? It taken to an extreme. And I speak from personal experience because I'm very wired to be like, great, we got my daughter's unhappy. What are we going to do? Call it marshal of forces, right? What are we going to do? Oh, there's an issue in my community. All right, let's organize. Let's make a plan. Like, something's happening on the national stage. What is my business going to do? How am I going to write? And so on the one hand, great, right? On the other hand, like, whoa, Nelly, take a breath.
It's endless. Yeah. It's endless.
Because, right, it's endless. Yeah.
And I think that, a couple years ago, I was really busy. It was really busy. And I would wake up every morning and I would go work out at my gym and I would, come back. And it was like, I just never sat still. And this is after all this work with yoga and Ayurveda and all this, right? I mean, it was like, this is just a constant battle. Humans remember and they forget. This is the thing.
Yes.
But I'd slowed down. I stopped going to work out in the morning. I started just like sitting with myself in the morning. My daughter was, she had like horrific cramps. And I went into her bedroom and I typically would come in and say, like, what do you need? Let's get you Advil. Let's get you a heating pad. Let's get this. And I just came in and I just sat with her. And all I did, it comes in waves of pain. And I just held her hand, and I just thought, you are strong enough and this is temporary. That's all I did. And I have this woman who does, she was a massage therapist, and she's now doing cranial sacral. And she said that the cranial sacral, what she's learned about it is that you let someone go into a cave. It's their journey into the cave. And all you do is stand at the cave and make sure that it's safe for them to do that work. And I thought about that when I was sitting with my daughter, because I would usually be going, first of all, I would be thinking about where else I needed to be. Like, how long is this going to, I mean, that's terrible. But like, that's the mindset where I was in, right? It's like, okay, well, what's next? Like, once this is fixed, then I can go off to the next thing. And I just sat with her and I just felt, and I literally, it was her journey. It was her pain. I couldn't take that away, but I could just be at the entrance of the cave for her. Yeah. And it was such a mindset shifting thing for me, right? Because I mean, in coaching, you can only be at the edge of the cave. This is their work. Yeah. You just have to make sure that they feel safe, they feel seen, that you can give them the feedback if they're asking for it. But that's basically it. And I have to say that it put a new spin for me. And it was, she was like 17 years old or 16 years old. And I'm sitting here like, oh my God, I'm finally realizing what it's like to be realizing like the point of being a parent. Whoa, a little late. But anyway, it was like a really remarkable moment, because we can't always fix everything. And I mean, again, like our work, our agency, our dharma is something in the draft. What are we uniquely positioned to provide the world? But there's only so much that we can control, truly.
Yeah. I was thinking about like that example of, of course, now we know we have our two kids who are about the exact same age, which is really interesting to me. And like how many times I've come to a parenting lesson, like so long after the fact, I'm like, wish I'd had this in my toolbox 10 years ago. But anyways, it is what it is. This idea of, I think it fits, but I kept thinking of like a problem well described is like a problem half solved. Like a colleague of mine said this a couple of days ago. And I was just thinking like how that relates to what you've just described. But I mean, just sort of like trying just to sit and be with what's wrong is like half of the journey of, right? Because this too shall pass. And so then when you're on sort of the other side of that, it's laid bare what really needs to be fixed and what is just sort of part of the flotsam and jetsam of kind of life in the modern age. And that's not making any excuses or sort of, again, being lazy about it, but just like, because you can't fix it all the time, how do you get yourself into a posture where you're expending your energy in the direction of the elements that both can be solved and both deserve to be fixed, if you will? That was just I was just sort of reflecting on like, and sometimes the quiet. Amanda knows I'm working on an article right now that's called Make the Red. And it's this idea of, we always try to make the light. And then during COVID, when there was like nothing going on, me and my youngest, we would like try to make the red. We would like slow down so that we had to stop at the red traffic light.
I love that. Make the red light.
And I just asked her this morning, actually, or yesterday morning. I was like, what did that mean for you when I would say make the red? And she's like, we had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's a gift.
That's a gift. I mean, COVID was not a gift. And yet, like, how resilient of her to be able to sort of extrapolate that lesson from that disastrous time to say, we had this practice together that was about like making time together, sitting with me while I'm going through cramps and holding my hand and not trying to solve, like make the red. And I was like, oh yeah, make the red.
Oh, God, I love that. My coach told me when I told her that, she said, you were in a place of attunement. And I love that
good word.
And I rarely use it or think about it, attunement. And I think attunement can lead to discernment. And I think that's, again, going back to, of course, spaciousness, which is like the, book I'm writing is about spaciousness, is like, you can only do that with space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. So I want to, as I suspected, I can just let the two of you go. Woo!
No,
And
no, I'm sorry.
no. I mean, like, I'm just like, it's like a gift for me because I'm like, yeah, now what's Suzanne going to say? And now what's Johanna going to say? Because I love everything you both say. And I owe you an out in approximately 7 minutes. And so I just want to kind of bring home a lot of the themes we've talked about, like, and where we just were in terms of this, finding this line between agency versus like a compulsion to fix it all, and the value of being able to tolerate discomfort and yet not going so far in that direction that you get stuck in the discomfort, or and it turns into complacency. So I like to ask people, this is a podcast for people who give a damn. You're both people who very much give a damn. We've barely at all referenced the paid work you all do in the world. So I'll be sure to include some of that in the intro so people have some more context. But just, suffice to say, these are people doing you two are doing important work in the world. But what is in your heart that you might want to say to other people listening who give a damn about being right now? Because it's really fucking hard. And if what you have to say is informed by some of the themes of today's conversation, wonderful. And if it just pops in out of the blue and it feels left field, permission to say that version too. I just want to know, like, you have a microphone right now and someone's driving in their car and they're listening. And frankly, I've been asking people this, and I think a lot of what people are saying, it's what we say to ourselves in the heart, right? I mean, what would you say to someone else who gives a damn is probably a version of what you maybe say to yourself or to maybe your kids or loved ones. So, Suzanne, can I put you in the hot seat and ask you to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think, not surprisingly, this is sort of a riff off of what Johanna put forward around spaciousness. And my current interpretation of that in my own life is, and Amanda, you'll know this, kind of the setting boundaries and finding peace. So that sounds to maybe the untrained ear like, oh, that's the opposite of spaciousness, you and your boundaries. And, you both are like, right? That like, in order to find spaciousness, I really have to know how to kind of crowd out or mute some of the other noise and signals. I also have to be willing, thinking of disruption or discomfort, I also have to be, sort of in a moment, because I want to kind of keep living a life that gives a damn, and I want a life that is purpose driven, and I want to make like change and impact in the world. I also have to know like when to disrupt my own patterns. So Johanna and I both like dog walk. She listens to music and I listen to podcasts. And after we sort of learned this about each other, I was like, if I went on a dog walk and listened to music, what would I listen to? Like, and I came up with David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust. It's like one of my favorite albums of all time. And so I'm going to do a walk this weekend where I listen to that album. And I may actually get bored because I'm not a music listener in that sort of way. But I'm just sort of like, it's a small example of like little ways that we can disrupt our patterns and create sort of new boundaries that within those boundaries allow for like spaciousness. So I don't know if that's like the smartest answer to your question about sort of giving a damn, but that's like that's what kind of like motivated me.
Yeah. I think it's very smart, of course. And I relate too, by the way, like a podcast keeps my brain engaged in a different way. I would definitely have to be with myself more if I were listening to music, which I like being with myself. But when there are things you're trying not to feel or things you're trying to avoid, it can be easier not to be with yourself. Johanna, how about you? Something you'd like to say to other people who give a damn?
Yeah. So this is going to be a little bit of the out there.
Do it.
About a year ago, I took mushrooms and I literally tripped balls. Like I never understood that phrase until I did.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
Me either.
And I love it.
So my husband and I did it together, and he was so sweet to me. He like followed me around. I was like leaking I was like tearing my nose. He would just follow me around with like tissues. And I was like, could not stop talking. Anyway, I was so sick. I got I just felt vomitous. I was nauseous. I was sick. But I was having so much fun. Like, we were laughing. It was just the most beautiful experience, despite the fact that I was existentially sick to my stomach. And I had been thinking before that about aging and aging gracefully, that I love moving my body. And at some point I may not be able to do that. And how can I handle that gracefully? How can I handle the pain of aging with the joy of life? And so that just felt like this big moment to me, right? That I could hold both. I could be in pain, and I could also find like the most amusing pleasure in my life. And as I've, the last year or so, I have a lot of chronic pain. I'm just in pain a lot. And everyone's like, just get on HRT and, and I'm like, I am in this experimentation of pain and pleasure. And I think about it in my personal life, like at home, everything right in this moment, everyone's happy. Everyone is good right now in my family. And I'm healthy. And I'm so grateful for that. And the world is exploding. And so how can I hold, going back to your, improv, both and the pain and pleasure, that we can hold it if we are aware of it and we can feel it, and not letting the pain override those moments where we can truly find pleasure and joy, because that's what life is about. And it can be really hard to find that sometimes. But if we can, just know that we can find it again.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful.
I love that.
And you get bonus points because you mentioned improv. So I don't know if you guys knew that there was going to be a scorecard.
There's a score, yeah.
At the end of the episode, but you've increased your score quite a bit there. So
I'm so glad.
Suzanne, I'm only sorry you didn't catch on to the fact that mentioning improv was the key to
but
your
she's your
success.
client. So she gets 100 points.
Yeah, that's true.
I may have your book. No,
Yeah.
I don't.
Flashing the book in front of the camera does
1,000
increase your score.
It's at home on my bedside
She won.
table. So
100 points. 100 points.
She totally won.
it's a good book. Actually, I wonder if I gave it away because I read it this summer on the beach. You know that. And it's a great story. I mean, and I love that it's geared. I mean, you know this, Amanda. It's like geared toward young adults. And it's like totally, it was so relevant for me in my like early 50s. And just, what does it mean to like act like we know what we're doing and kind of keep channeling in the right direction? So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I've now achieved ending the episode with a plug for my book. So I'm feeling like I did what I just set out to do today. Thank you. Thank you guys both so much for your time and your spirits and everything you brought to the conversation today. It was beautiful. And I think people are going to get a lot out of it. I know they are.
It was a real pleasure.
Thank you both.
Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please consider sharing it with someone who might need it. And please take a few minutes and leave a review. That really helps the show find its people. Mighty Forces is produced by Amanda Hirsch and Haley Hatcher. The music of Mighty Forces was written and performed by Jordan Hirsch, aka my wonderful husband. Till next time, remember, you are a mighty force, and we're mightier together.